I'm Dave Adams on The Pulse, and we are talking on the phone right now on a Friday. This is Black Friday with Troy Reinhart, partner in Northwest Quadrant Wealth Management. And Troy, glad to have you with us on the phone today.
Well, thank you for having me here on this after Thanksgiving holiday.
Now, Black Friday, we've all seen pictures of the crowds with black pepper spray trying to rush in and in some ways running over people to get the best bargains. What are we looking at as far as Black Friday and making a difference, or at least telling us what's going on with the nation's economy? Is this a vote of consumer confidence, or just what kind of litmus are we pulling away from Black Friday?
Well, it can be a vote of consumer confidence. How goes Black Friday usually goes how goes the rest of the holiday retail shopping season out there. For some people or for some retailers, up to 60% of what they're going to sell in the holiday season can come during Black Friday. So it's obviously very, very important to some people, and it sets the trends for others.
Now, we're recording this interview on Black Friday about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What are you seeing as far as the numbers? Have you had a chance to get any kind of feel for that?
Well, all you get is all you get is anecdotal information between now and Monday. Monday we'll get the official figures from retailers. Retailers are basically telling people that things look better than they looked last year. If you take my wife for an example, who went out at midnight last night, she said that there was lots of people. They were just spread out more than usual than we were used to seeing. So it might be a little hard to get some of those anecdotal reads that we've been used to in the past.
Could Black Friday itself spur more consumer confidence? In other words, the onlookers are looking at the crowds and saying, well, they're spending money. Maybe it's time I spent some money as well.
Oh, yeah. You could see if we get good numbers on Monday that'll make retailers feel better. They might lay in some more inventories. They might have some more sales. It'll get people out there shopping, thinking, I better get out there and buy what I need to for my family before it's all gone. And so good news becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as well as bad news can sometimes be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Some of the Occupy protesters are out there trying to organize a boycott for Friday. Do you think that's going to gain any traction?
No, I think most people will go out there and they look at it as an opportunity to find some bargains for their family, and I don't think they'll get caught up in the politics of that entire movement. And we certainly didn't see any of that here in Central Oregon.
Let's take a look at the general state of the economy. Things are a bit rocky. Unemployment is still pretty high. People are very, very cautious, nervous. We're looking at the events happening overseas in the Middle East, and there's just so many things out there to make consumers nervous. What are we seeing if we could kind of step back from Black Friday a little bit and take an overall look at the economy, kind of a thumbnail sketch of it? What's going on out there?
Well, the numbers are generally getting better. This is not atypical of coming out of a very hard recession, so it's not any worse or any better in either side than we've tended to see in the past. And it's going to be a slow slog out of this. Financial things usually are, but things are generally getting better. I talk to lots of people here in Central Oregon, across the state, and across the nation for that matter. And as long as you're not involved in housing or you're not involved in real estate, people are telling me things are generally getting better, and I've seen it in our business also. So we're starting to make that slow slog out of there, but like President Reagan said, it's a recession when your neighbor loses his job, it's a depression when you lose yours. And if you haven't found another job yet, it's hard to get upbeat and excited about what's going on out there. I can understand that.
Let's take a look at the job market. So are there more jobs out there? What's happening on that front?
I talk to employers, and the two things I get from employers is there are jobs out there to be filled. Now, they aren't super high-paying jobs. A lot of them are entry-level jobs, and this extended unemployment benefit has really dried up the labor pool. A lot of people are just sitting around collecting extended unemployment benefits instead of going to work because they don't want to go to that work that they don't think maybe is up to their standards or whatever. But there are lots of jobs out there, and there's work out there to be had. It's just we have to get people to go out and apply for it, and until they exhaust their unemployment benefits, in a lot of cases, those people aren't going out there and finding those jobs.
You say a slow slog out of the kind of the bottom. So what areas of the economy are we seeing improvement in?
Oh, we're seeing improvement in retail sales. Consumer sales have been out there. You talk to people like National Presto that makes popcorn poppers and those kinds of things. They've seen increasing sales. We've seen increasing sales at Macy's and those kinds of places. And they're definitely hiring people. We've seen it in equipment manufacturers, John Deere and Caterpillar and Oshkosh and those kind of big equipment makers. They've been posting some terrific numbers, and they've been adding on to their employment out there. So those are the kind of sectors you're seeing it. But if you're in real estate, I talk to my friends in the cabinet industry or the interior door building industry, they're still very depressed. Where they used to be running three shifts 24/7, now they're running one shift 5 days a week and taking days out every once in a while because they don't have enough orders. So we're seeing it in the early cyclical stuff we'd see in farming and construction, that kind of stuff, because mining's been very good, those kinds of places.
Let's take a look at your crystal ball, so to speak. What do you see for this Christmas shopping season? What do you think it's going to pan out to be?
Well, I think we'll pan out, and if you believe the economists out there, we should see a 2 or 3% increase over last year, which is a pretty healthy increase, especially from what you've seen us go through out there. And we have to remember when we look at this holiday shopping season is that people have gotten more efficient. Manufacturers and companies out there have gotten more efficient. We're essentially at the same GDP that we were at the peak in 2007. We just employ 6 million less people. So there are people out there with jobs and are still doing it, and those people are going out and they're saving more. We've seen our savings rate go up. We've seen personal income increase in the last couple months. So I think that'll translate into a better general buying season in the retail holiday season.
What about consumer debt load? Has that been a big problem as far as why we're in the big slump we are now? Has that situation improved?
Well, it's improving. It's one of those yin and yang kind of deals. Is as people de-leverage, they save more and they start to pay off debt, they don't spend as much. And so that's why we've seen retail sales numbers generally be sluggish over the last couple of years. And so it's good that the American consumer is deleveraging, but they're not out there buying the things that they used to be. So, it's sometimes careful what you wish for. But the savings rate went from negative to about 6%. Right now it's sitting at about 4% of people's income they're saving, much better than it was. And the American consumer is deleveraging and getting better. But it's going to take a period of probably 5 or 6 years before we get back to levels that we were, say, 2000.
Should we, as we plan for the future, be a good idea for consumers to plan on saving and basically kind of get off our cocaine habit, so to speak, and not just reach for the credit card and buy everything in sight? That would be a big spurt of the economy, but long-term isn't beneficial to the country.
Yeah, you pegged it exactly. I mean, people can't use their house like an ATM machine anymore. We see more and more people out there. You talk to retailers, they're using cash, they're using their debit card, they're writing a check, they aren't using their credit card, and then they won't have that hangover come January of all the stuff that they bought, and now they got to pay off the debt. And that's where we need to be as a country. We need people out there that are saving for retirement, saving for the rainy day, saving for money before they buy things, and that'll make for a healthier growth in our economy than that, as you said, drug-fueled spending spree we went through earlier this century.
Let's talk about the national debt. Very, very high, causing some concerns from some countries overseas as they look at the national debt in the United States. And, of course, Super Committee not able to come to a decision, and that doesn't look well for us overseas. Let's talk about the national debt and how that looks in the big picture. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the national debt is a concern. We, as a country, have done the same thing that consumers did in the early part of this decade, spending more money than they had and fueling it through credit. And we can't continue at a pace where every 40 cents of every dollar we spend in this country is borrowed money from somewhere else. And so that's got to change. It's going to change slowly, because if we put on the brakes too hard, we're going to careen into the ditch and put us in another recession. And, I'm not as negative and pessimistic about the Super Committee not reaching a solution. I got to give President Obama credit. He pushed the Republicans to a solution that probably will end up being a good thing at the end of the day. When you look at our budget picture, and I know different people will disagree at different parts of it, but we are going to have spending cuts in 2013. That was part of the bill that was passed in August. And at the beginning of 2013, at the end of 2012, the Bush tax cuts will sunset, and we'll have a tax increase. And those two things put together will help take care of part of the debt problem. In the meantime, we'll have some growth in the economy. That will help with the debt problem. So we're on the right road, and I think Fitch and Moody's, the big rating agencies, basically told it the way it was this week. They said, as long as Congress and the President don't rescind these budget cuts these automatic budget cuts that kick in 2013, we're on the right road down there. So we're headed in the right way. It's not going to be pretty. Things in a democracy never are pretty. But you try to compare yourself to some other economies out there and some other ways of doing government, and we're still in the greatest nation in the world, and we'll find our way out of this thing, and we're on the right road to doing that.
If you could choose one word to describe your feeling about the future of the economy, future of the country, one word, what would that be?
I am very optimistic.
So let's put a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being we're at the end of the rainbow and there's a pot of gold, and 1 being financial Armageddon. Where are we?
We're headed toward a 10.
We're headed towards a 10.
We're headed towards a 10. I mean, you look at this. One of the people that I travel with my partner to Omaha every April to hear Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, two octogenarians, talk about this economy, talk about their company, Berkshire Hathaway, and 9 different operating companies, the greatest of which is Dairy Queen that Berkshire Hathaway owns, is my personal favorite. But, like Warren Buffett says, when he was born 82 years ago, 1930, when he was born, the GDP of this country is 6-fold greater than it was in 1930. And arguably, we went through some pretty nasty stuff since 1930. We went through a depression, we went through a world war, we went through Vietnam, we went through Korea, we went through 6 different recessions out there. We had a president almost get impeached, have to resign. We've had lots of bad things going, and still this country has 6 times greater GDP. The people alive today, middle-class people, even our lower-class people, live better as far as nutrition and the things they have in their life than John Rockefeller did at the turn of the century. So we're going to continue down that road. America is a great country. We just need to, we're going to have to tackle some problems, and that's what Americans are great at. And so I'm super optimistic.
What about Oregon? Oregon has its unique set of issues financially. Let's talk about the state of the economy, and then state government.
Well, I think Oregon's had some struggle now for 30 years as we've killed off one industry after another. I mean, basically we self-imposed, killed off the timber industry. The tourism industry gets anchors tied around them all the time as far as, developing new ski resorts or whatever it may be out there. So we certainly have some struggles at the state that we're going to have to work through. I'm optimistic that we're going to get there. It's just going to take some time. It's going to take some adult leadership out there. But the biggest thing we're going to have to tackle in the state of Oregon is we don't have an income problem in the state of Oregon as far as government. We have a spending problem, and the state of Oregon can't be everything to everybody. And we're going to face that up, and we're going to have a big debate coming into this next legislative session that starts here in January or February, where we're going to have to work through the same things we're doing on the federal level. And that's going to mean some of the things we're used to as Oregonians, we're going to have to do for ourselves. Some of the charities that are out there, some of the social services, those are going to become the roles of the churches and those kinds of organizations rather than the role of the state, the way they used to be. And the churches of this country and this state will be the social safety net. And that's not going to be an easy transition, but we're going to work through it. And, I'm optimistic. And, all you have to do is look at Bend, Oregon. I left Bend, Oregon in 1980 to go to forestry school at Oregon State University. And I thought I would never come back to Bend, not because I couldn't afford to move back in 2004 because housing prices were so high, but this place was going to dry up and blow away. In the mid-'80s, half of downtown was boarded up, and the town was about 10 or 12,000 people. Today, we're over 80,000 people. It's not a super strong economy, but it's not the end of the world, and the town's bigger. So, I'm optimistic for Central Oregon. I'm optimistic for the state, but that doesn't mean we don't have troubles that we're going to have to work through, and we're just going to have to pull on our boots and go to work.
Okay. Troy Reinhart is the partner with Northwest Quadrant Wealth Management in Bend. Troy, thanks for talking to us today.
You bet. You have a good day.
I'm Dave Adams. This is the Pulse Network, and we're looking forward to coming to your community.